What is up, you guys? We are back with another awesome film today, and as today's film begins, the camera takes us to a support group where we meet Renfield, who's Dracula's familiar. Renfield attends this group for people who are in abusive relationships, setting the theme for the tumultuous relationship between him and Dracula. Renfield feels that Dracula is very abusive and takes advantage of him. We are transported back to the early 20th century, where we witness how Renfield and Dracula first met. Renfield was an ambitious real estate agent, and Dracula recognized his potential and offered him a position as his assistant. The two embark on thrilling adventures that Renfield remembers fondly. However, things take a dark turn as Dracula makes Renfield his familiar, and Renfield finds himself feeling depressed and ignored. And he gains his familiar powers by eating bugs. In the present day, we find ourselves at Dracula's mansion, where Renfield hears a scream and rushes to find Dracula trapped inside a circle of white powder. A hunter and a priest are chanting spells to capture and kill Dracula. However, Dracula explains to Renfield that his only salvation lies in saving him, as the men will lock him up for the things that he's done on Dracula's behalf. Renfield sees Dracula's point and breaks the circle, allowing him to kill the priest and the hunter. But when the curtain is suddenly opened, Dracula is severely burned, but he kills the hunter regardless, and by the time Renfield puts a cape on him, he was already badly burnt. Renfield narrates how this is a reoccurring theme as Dracula goes on a killing spree and is then hunted down by humans, and then he and Renfield move to a different city to start over. In this new city, Dracula is forced to hide in an abandoned apartment as he is severely disfigured. And it's in this city that Renfield discovers the support group that he currently attends. One day at a meeting, Renfield bursts out laughing when one member breaks out into emotion. When a member asks Renfield to talk about his relationship, he remains silent, and the group members understand and stop pushing him, expressing hope that he gets something from attending these groups. Renfield tells them that he does, but in reality, he's using the group to find victims for Dracula. He believes that he's helping members leave their abusive relationships by bringing their partners to Dracula. As the night unfolds, Renfield is on a mission to take revenge against Caitlin's boyfriend, Mitch. He finds him and his friends in a warehouse with bags of cocaine they stole from their boss. Renfield's sudden appearance spooks the group as they assume that he's some kind of hitman sent by their boss to silence them. But when they realize he's just Caitlin's friend, they just burst out laughing, thinking that it's a joke. Renfield then seizes the opportunity and quickly takes them down, rendering all of them unconscious. However, the real hitman soon arrives, and Renfield is ready to face off with him. They engage in a brutal fight, but Renfield emerges victorious, but sadly he's not unscathed as the hitman manages to slash open his abdomen. But despite his injuries, Renfield manages to escape the scene. Meanwhile, Teddy Lobo, son of the city's notorious mob boss Mrs. Lobo, is sitting in his car waiting outside the warehouse. He's on the phone, updating his mother on the hit's progress when he hears a loud crash. And suddenly, the hitman's head comes flying through the window, slamming into Teddy's car. He's utterly shocked, and without a moment of hesitation, he drives away as fast as he can. Rebecca, a police officer, is fighting her own battle against the corrupt system. Her father was killed by the mob, and she's been struggling to make her way up the police department. One night, while working on a DUI checkpoint, Teddy tries to get past her, and Rebecca approaches the car, but Teddy remembers the bag of cocaine in the vehicle and decides to make a run for it. However, he crashes, and in a bid to avoid getting caught, he carries the drugs and attempts to escape on foot. Rebecca chases after him, but Teddy throws the cocaine at her, hoping to slow her down. In response, Rebecca throws her staff, hitting Teddy's head and knocking him to the ground. She quickly moves in and arrests him, and finally brings one of the city's notorious drug lords to justice. As the night falls, tensions are high in the city, and back at the apartment, Dracula is furious with the meal Renfield has brought him. He demands the blood of the innocent, people like nuns and cheerleaders and the like, and Renfield reminds him that they have changed and they can't do whatever they want anymore. Dracula then slashes Renfield's wounds in anger and reminds him of the rules. Renfield does what Dracula wants, or else Dracula is gonna punish him severely. Meanwhile, at the police station, Teddy is released from custody due to his family's connections. Rebecca is outraged and she confronts her boss, who accuses her of projecting her anger over her father's death onto the situation. He reminds her that she's hit rock bottom, and as Rebecca storms out, her sister finds her and consoles her, and Rebecca shares her frustration about letting Teddy go and accuses her sister of doing nothing. At Teddy's home, his mom urges him to get his hands dirty and reminds him that their family's wealth comes from their willingness to do terrible things. Rebecca heads to the warehouse where Teddy was held captive and finds the pen that Renfield was stabbed with, hoping to incriminate Teddy. And she and her team decide to search the bar across the street for evidence. Inside the bar, Renfield sits, conflicted about kidnapping innocent people. As he stands to leave, he spots Rebecca entering the bar and quickly turns away to avoid her. Outside the bar, Teddy prepares to attack Rebecca as he's eager to build his reputation and show his mom that he can get his hands dirty. As he and his team make their move, Renfield spots the men with rifles approaching the bar and turns away again. As the men enter, Teddy confronts Rebecca, threatening to shoot her if she doesn't admit that he owns her. Rebecca stands her ground, telling him to do it, but Renfield comes to her rescue and uses his power to knock out Teddy. Rebecca and Renfield then take out the rest of the gang, and the night ends with Rebecca and Renfield emerging victorious, but the danger in the city is still looming over their heads. As the movie progresses, Rebecca finds herself impressed by the brutal nature of a stranger who saves her life. She compliments him and he reveals that he's not from the area. She assumes that he's a military man and he tells her that he's impressed by how she stood up to Teddy. Rebecca thanks him for being a hero and for saving her life, and as they speak, the stranger, Renfield, feels a connection with Rebecca and is quite mesmerized by her. Suddenly, Dracula interrupts their conversation and the stranger, who is Renfield, must return to the apartment. Dracula calmly informs Renfield that he intends to take his rightful place as the Prince of Darkness and achieve his goal of world domination. Renfield was stressed at this moment because he didn't bring Dracula a victim, but Dracula seems undisturbed. After returning to the support group, Renfield shares his experience and they help him realize that he needs to change his codependent tendencies. They help him understand that Dracula won't ever become fully powerful without Renfield's help, and he decides to take control of his life. He rents his own place and decorates it as he pleases, and the support group provides him with a book that's going to help him on his journey. At the police station, everyone from the bar except Renfield refuses to be a witness, and Rebecca is pleased with Renfield's bravery as he tells her that standing up to bullies is the only way to stop them. In the next scene, Teddy and his mother track down Renfield's house to kill him, but instead they find an eerie room with satanic decorations and dead bodies. Dracula suddenly appears and kills all the men except for Teddy, who explains that they were there to kill Renfield for stopping them from killing Rebecca. Dracula flies away feeling very infuriated, and Rebecca gives a pen found in the warehouse to her sister and tells her to investigate as she can't trust anybody in the station. Meanwhile, Renfield is shocked when he sees Dracula at his home. Dracula compliments his new appearance and asks him whether he's found any new victims for him. Renfield tries to lie, but Dracula lashes out at him, reminding him of his past and how he abandoned his family. He accuses Renfield of being the real monster and that he victimized himself. As Renfield tries to ignore Dracula's taunts, he picks up the book his support team gave him and he starts reading multiple self-esteem phrases. However, Dracula laughs and overwhelms him when he sees the book belongs to a church. Rebecca goes to Caitlin's home to investigate Mitch's murder. She meets a member of the support group who shows strong hate toward Mitch, and as the police investigate, Caitlin reveals that they met at the support group, leading them to suspect that the murderer might be there. After Renfield's warnings, Dracula made an appearance and mercilessly killed all the members present. He warned Renfield that the horror he witnessed that day was nothing compared to what he was capable of, and he said this right before he disappeared into the night. When Rebecca found Renfield at the scene, she immediately arrests him. However, as she stepped outside, she found herself surrounded by police cars and officers and mobsters alike. And from all the people there, her boss was also present, and so was Teddy's mom. Teddy's mother offers a tempting deal to Rebecca: cooperate with them for a hefty compensation. Meanwhile, her boss promised her a promotion. Initially, Rebecca agreed to the offer, but the moment they let their guard down, she made a quick escape with Renfield. At the apartment, Dracula approached Teddy and convinced him to join his army, promising to destroy all their enemies if they pledge allegiance to him. Teddy agreed to meet Dracula with his mother. Renfield took Rebecca back to her home, but during the evasion, she was shot in the shoulder, and when she regained consciousness, she found Renfield, and she still points a gun at him, but he shows her that he's still handcuffed. He reveals that he worked for Dracula and brought him his victims. Shocked and disappointed, Rebecca learns that Renfield was involved in random murders. Her sister calls her and informs her that the blood samples belong to a prolific serial killer who was apparently 70 to 80 years old. And from this, Rebecca understands that it was indeed Renfield who was the serial killer, hence she and his sister decide to meet up to discuss what they should do about him, and they also contemplate the fact that he's a familiar that worked for Dracula. As Renfield and Rebecca step outside, they were confronted by police cars and mobsters. Renfield searched for a bug but found nothing, and in a last-ditch effort, he ate the neighbor's pet spider. Together, Rebecca and Renfield fight off the cops and mobsters. Meanwhile, Teddy's mom and Rebecca's boss watch from a distance. In frustration, the boss storms out and we hear a scream as he leaves the house. The officers rush in, followed closely by Teddy, who brings Dracula along with him to meet his mom. And to everyone's shock, Teddy reveals that Dracula intends to take over the world with them. As they wait for Rebecca's sister to arrive, Renfield shows Rebecca a black and white picture of his family and tells her about his past mistakes. And despite this situation, Rebecca reassures him that he's not really a bad person and that everybody can make mistakes. When her sister is kidnapped by Teddy's mom, Rebecca sets out to save her, but Renfield tries to stop her out of concern for her safety. She convinces him that they must take the risk, and they arm themselves with weapons that can potentially hurt Dracula, and they head to Teddy's house before sunset. Once there, they encounter Teddy and his men who have been turned into familiars by Dracula. And despite the odds, Rebecca and Renfield manage to eliminate all of Teddy's men, leaving Renfield to face off against Teddy, while Rebecca goes to save her sister. Inside the building, she encounters Teddy's mother and confronts Dracula, who confesses that he's impressed by her and offers her power to do justice. He also reveals that his blood can heal his sister, who lies injured on a stretcher. After Renfield kills Teddy, he and Rebecca work together to take down Dracula. And despite being initially overpowered, Renfield remembers the support of his loved ones, which gives him the strength to fight back. Meanwhile, Rebecca creates a circle of cocaine, which traps Dracula inside when he attacks Renfield. The two then use every weapon at their disposal to defeat Dracula and collect his blood to heal Rebecca's sister. With Teddy's mom in custody, Rebecca is relieved to have her sister back, and she tells Renfield to continue being a hero. In the final scene, we see Renfield bringing his support group back to life using Dracula's blood, and he shares his experience with them, ending the movie on a very hopeful note. And that is it for our movie today, guys. I hope to see you on my next recap. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!